Right then, guys, welcome back into the Spooky Shed, your go-to place for conversations around all things weird, scary, and, of course, spooky. Bit of a different one today, so I've got Richard and Mark from Mum, Dad's Got Another Tattoo. So, gentlemen, welcome into the shed. How are we?
Yeah, very well, thanks.
All good, thanks.
Good. Right, well, so, like I said, this is a bit different to what I normally do and different to the type of guests I normally have on. So, do you two just want to quickly let our listeners know what your podcast is about?
Yeah, so Mum, Dad's Got Another Tattoo is the Midlife Crisis podcast. So the name comes from something my daughter had to shout and on numerous occasions as post the age of 45, I went from no tattoos to about 18 tattoos in very short order. And it was also part of getting in shape. You know how middle-aged men can be put into different sorting hats that, you know, some get golf, some get paddle tennis. I got lifting and protein. And it was
we got fat, didn't we? Let's be honest.
We got fat, and now I'm not fat. And so, but definitely, it was pointed out to me that I may well be having a midlife crisis. So I thought I would get a close pal of mine, Richard, to document the things that happen during this stage of our life and try and make our way through it and try and build a community of people that can get some benefit from that. We've had some pretty serious guests talking about mental health. But we don't want to be too po-faced about it either. We want to poke fun and laugh at the ridiculousness as well to try and get there.
And I basically just hold his hand as he goes through his journey and try and limit the damage.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
I need to ask them, what's the worst tattoo you got?
All my tattoos are great because...
No, there's no such thing.
I don't know. I'll stand by all of them. I'll stand by all of them.
They're all so recent, to be fair. That
they're recent.
Probably about an 18-month period, so they're all really new. And it hasn't had the time to regret. You know,
they do say you should never trust a man with no bad tattoos, and that's right.
I stand by it.
How visible are they?
Well, they're all on my arms. I've got a couple on my chest, and I had been planning a leg sleeve, which should start in the new year as well. But, no
I've never liked that because that should be called a trouser.
It should be a trouser leg. It should be a trouser leg. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, I can show you my worst one because for some reason, I got this during lockdown, and for some, again, probably shouldn't admit that because it was lockdown, but for some reason, I think I had some sort of breakdown then, and I thought that would be a good idea.
Wow. Are you a chef? Are you a chef?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a relief.
Terrible idea.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
I know, but I don't like the job anymore, so. But now I'm stuck with it.
Just remind you of that every day.
Yeah, no.
Well, the worst part was I got the knife done first. So at one point I just had a knife on my hands. I looked like some sort of prisoner. So and then I was like, I can't have that. That just.
You thought I need a bit of context, or people are going to start crossing the street.
I thought it would make it look better, but to me it doesn't. But yeah. Right. Anyway, we shall move on. So. I did pre-warn you that I always ask my guests to leave something in the shed with us, so it can be anything you want, something you love, something you hate, person, a place, a feeling, a thing, whatever you like. The weirder, the better. Yeah, just whatever.
Right, so I'm going to leave the feeling or the moment that made me become a total paranormal skeptic. And that was when I woke up from a knee operation. So I had a very minor knee operation in my early 20s. I have to report at least 20 years ago now. But I had to go under general anesthetic. And so you count down 9, 8, and then off to sleep you go. And then the next thing I remember is waking up in the hospital bed. And my first thought generally was, that must be what it's like when you're dead. Because there was nothing in between that. And I kind of hooked onto that. I think I was on that journey anyway to being, a hyper rationalist. And so that was really the confirmation. I just found out what it's like to be dead. It's like that just forever. And there is no afterlife. There is no spiritual realm. There is nothing funky going on. And yet life every now and then keeps trying to, maybe it is from the spiritual world, keeps punching through and trying to give me evidence and examples about how I should change my mind. And maybe I'll tell you about some of those. But that feeling has made me that guy who has got a rational explanation for all these things that, you know, you can be quite romantic sometimes. And who am I to burst that bubble? Well, sometimes I do. So that is what I'm putting in the shed.
I mean, don't panic, everyone, because I am the complete opposite side of the coin. The paranormal world, I love it. I sit here while I'm working at my desk. I've got my tablet there while I'm working. I'll be watching UFO clips, cryptids, you name it. I'm all for it. But what I would like to leave in the shed, spooky shed, is something much less boring, is my golf game. Because you see something you love or something you hate, and it's both in equal measure. So quite frankly, at the moment, you can have it. It's in the shed and it may well stay there.
Fair enough. Well, I will get no use out of that because that's an scandal. But yeah. But I do need to point out, well, I mean, our listeners will probably side with me on this, the obvious flaw in your thinking there, Mark, that you weren't dead, you were just asleep. You were still breathing.
Yeah, that is true. But it was the sensation, and you can explain it, but that is the moment. And I remember that thought hitting my brain so clearly. Of course, he's confirming it didn't change everything I already believed in that moment, but that was the cherry on the skeptical cake.
Fair enough. I can sort of see where you're coming from, but like I say, I do think that
open your mind.
Yeah. Well, no, you were just asleep. It's just like I mean, surely you don't do that every morning. Like shit, and I was dead.
No, I didn't. But that is I think that is why I'm putting it in the shed, because maybe, despite my hyper rational claim, I'm making an irrational claim based on it. So who knows? I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but there it is. It's in the shed. And so by placing the shed, I feel like I've now opened up my mind and my heart to what is to come.
Well, that's why I like it. That's why I like all this so much now, because as much as certain people will claim to know, nobody actually knows what the hell happens.
No.
Nobody ever will, I don't think.
You've got to be there, haven't you? You've got to experience it. And it's that moment is when you find out.
Yeah. I mean, unless somebody actually does a real life flatliners, then we're never going to know.
Yeah, not keen on the idea. Not keen on the idea, though.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not volunteering myself, mate. But I mean, if somebody else wants to do it and let us know, then crack on. But I won't be doing it myself. Yeah, sack that off. Yeah, right. So you sent us a little list of topics to go over. So we'll start from the top. So you've just put down here that the glass moved. So
yeah. So this is one of those incidents where the paranormal pokes through from wherever it sits and challenges that certainty that I have that it doesn't exist. So this actually covers a little bit of a weighty subject, but don't worry, we won't alight on it for too long. But I was at a restaurant, a work event during the day, so you know, maybe people were having a glass of wine, but it was very civilized, and the subject got on to my wife's family, who are from Poland, and her grandparents arrived here just after the war. Now, her grandfather arrived wearing striped pajamas, having escaped from Auschwitz and the Nazi labor camp.
Jesus.
And my mother-in-law still has those. I've seen them. I hesitate to call them pajamas because that's quite a jaunty word, and it's not really a jaunty subject. Anyway, he was arrested at the start of the war by the Germans, and he was training to be a priest. And when his time in the labor camp had finished, he didn't believe in God anymore. And I said, just like me, I don't believe in anything like that at all. No sooner had those words left my lips, there was a glass in the middle of the table, and it moved, I'm going to say, a foot, just slid across the flat surface. To the extent, not out the corner of your eye, did something happen, did it not? In the middle of the table. And the effect was, I work in the financial services industries. We're not talking, it wasn't a seance. We didn't have all our hands together. There wasn't, Rosie Lee at the end with her tea leaves. This was, I would say, people who value logic and things that can be explained in that way. The effect on the table, it was totally silent. And the guy opposite me said, "Did you just see that?" And it was, yeah, what? That glass just moved on its own about a foot. Yeah, I saw. So that is that. I mean, what could explain that? I mean, I've got my theory, of course, based in physics and the boring stuff. But I told my mother-in-law that story. So about how, her dad who was a bit of a joker anyway, came and had a bit of fun at our expense.
I've got no way of rationalizing that. Not moving that. Not like I say, if it's moving a foot across the table, to me, there's no rational way to explain that, physics or what or anything, unless someone has like actually lifted up the table. But then I'm surmising there's other things on the table, and they would have also moved.
Yeah, I mean, it was the sole object. Now, of course, I can come up with a reason, but I guess the question is, should I? I mean, that gave my mother-in-law a lot of comfort that,
And you weren't very rational. Let me tell you, Liam, I spoke to him just after the event. He wasn't thinking very rational then.
Well, it was like, you will not believe what's just happened. But, it was the scenario and the surroundings were so normal. As I say, it wasn't, sometimes I think when you're open to these sorts of things happening, that you can hear and your brain can play tricks on you and your eyes.
If you're looking for them, you mean?
If you're looking for it. And also your eyes and your ears are not necessarily a particularly reliable source. You can see things out the corner of your eye, or you thought something was happening and it turned out it was completely something else, or whatever it may be. But we weren't. It was just a normal conversation. I actually tell that story relatively frequently. It's like one of my sort of relationship building routines. And yet on this occasion, something definitely happened. So what is it, Liam? Was it my grandfather-in-law from the spiritual world saying, you know what, you carry on talking, I'm here, mate, so you better make this story?
Well, we've got to go down that route then. What was it? Was the glass empty, full?
Yeah, from memory, I think it was an empty.
Right. Fair enough. I was just going to say, if there was a drink in it that he liked, then maybe it was him.
Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Let's say, but our memory can play tricks on us. So let's say it was. Yeah, his favourite. Now you come to mention it. Hey, that's a good little addition to the story. That is. Yeah, well, he was Polish after all.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick your drink is what I say. Is my experience of that side of the family. They're all their favourites.
I would say though, because I always say this anyway, and a lot of people I speak to, and especially people who do paranormal investigations, say that it is always good to start skeptical first and think of a rational explanation first, because then you can rule things out. It's why whenever I've done investigations and stuff, or whenever I watch investigations, if just like one piece of equipment, for example, is going off, I'm very much, could be something, but it could also be bugger all. Because half the stuff we use for paranormal investigation is almost like
sensitive at best.
Yeah, but the things that are meant for other things as well, if that makes any sort of sense. There's nothing that's, I mean, obviously people like brand things now as like spirit boxes and stuff, but essentially they're just radios.
They can be picking up frequencies from wherever you want. You want multiple sources at the same time.
Exactly.
Give you the evidence.
That's what I mean. So I want a spirit box going off. I want a bloody EVPs going off. I want REM pods going off all at the same time, or else I'm going to be a bit right. It could just be nothing, but I don't know that like I say, and the fact that it's moved so much. If it had just like slightly, just like if it had just gone like that, then to me it's just like you say, you might even just like think you saw that, but for it to move that much and you're not the only person to see it, to me there's definitely something in that. Whether that's your grandfather-in-law or just someone taking a piss, I don't know.
Well, I don't think it could have been anyone playing a trick. I mean, the only person I can remember from the guest list was there was someone called Susie Suzuki at the end of the table who's
That's a cracking name.
I'm not sure it's a given name, but her claim to fame that she gave me was that she'd been on a date with Nick Knowles from DIY SOS.
Is that really a claim?
That's something you keep to yourself, surely.
Well, I think she showed me the paparazzi shots of it. I rather think she may have told them as well that she was going on a date, but I don't think she had that in her to move the glass. I wouldn't even know how it would happen. Yeah. And then everyone else was. It was some sort of networking event. So people would work, like salespeople in banks, hedge fund managers, etc.
And to move it that far, surely you've got to bank that table at a noticeable level. Surely people are leaning on it. So if you're sitting around a table, not everybody's sitting back.
It was a heavy restaurant table as well. It wasn't just not one with a little wobble. And as Liam said as well, there was other we were eating. So there were loads of other bits of crockery and cutlery on the table. But this, right in the middle, right opposite me, it went. It is probably the spookiest thing that's ever happened to me, I would say. And the timing, of course, as well, is like a massive factor in that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like I've got a friend who I've met through doing this, and his favourite saying is now that he doesn't believe in coincidences anymore.
Yeah.
So, and the more stuff I look into about involving the paranormal and UFOs and everything, I'm getting to that point now as well where I don't believe in them anymore. So it's definitely a strange one.
But I don't feel in my heart of hearts that he
Mhm.
came through and did that. I mean, why? What is there a significance about the glasses? You know, like Ouija boards and that sort of stuff. The glasses, you know, it's quite a common symbol of communication. You know, I haven't looked into this at all. Is that like a frequent symbol or?
From what I know and from what I can think up in my own head, is that, like I say, typically when you would use a glass when you're doing like a homemade Ouija board, obviously the glass would be upside down. And I think the idea is then that like the energy of the spirit then will form inside the glass, and then that's how they can move it.
All right. Well, maybe he was in that glass.
Possibly. But again, that's the beauty of it. We'll never know, but still it's just fun to talk about.
Well, maybe one day we will know. So, so Rich, you are a bit of a UFO. You told me off for using the phrase UFO.
UAP, Mark, UAP.
What's
Yes.
the UAP?
Unidentified aerial phenomena is the new phrase that's being used. And I mean, you were actually nearly involved in one.
I was nearly involved.
Picked you up, do you? So, well, I've had Liam 3 occasions, and thankfully on all 3 occasions I've had witnesses with me. So one that's probably going back 25 years. Now this is I lived in a flat with my then girlfriend, but we had like a patio area outside. And it was the summer, so I was having people over for a clear summer's day, not a cloud in the sky, and I'm out on the patio, a few people there, and just one of those things. I looked up, and from my perspective, it seemed really high, but there was a clear stationary silver. I couldn't tell if it was a ball, but it looked like a ball, and it was stationary. So I called a few other people over to look at it, and they could see it. And it didn't move. I'm talking 10, 15 minutes. This was just in a... So was it something... It wasn't a balloon because it was just stationary, to the point where even a plane passed underneath it. You know, a plane, a high altitude, passed underneath it. Mark was going to be coming. I remember phoning you and saying, you've got to come and see this. And unfortunately, by the time I drove to yours, picked you up, it wasn't there. But that was the very first one. But it was stationary and was there a long time. And I don't have an explanation for that. Second one was quite interesting.
Sorry. I just wanted to say, so this is my skeptical voice. There's so much that we don't know about what's going on in terms of just even like weather balloons and observation.
But they move.
Things.
But weather balloons move with the conditions.
Yeah, I know, but maybe there's a type of weather balloon that doesn't move. You know, you're not on top of the weather balloon technology or any of these aerial things. And you get like really funny cloud formations as well. I see it on Reddit quite frequently when someone says, what the hell is this going on? And someone says, oh, that's so-and-so cloud that forms very rarely. You know, there's a rational explanation for it.
This is what I have to deal with, Liam. This is what I have to deal with.
I'm the same, because when me and Billy started this podcast, he was more into the paranormal stuff and I was more into the aliens and UFOs, because I still maintain, as much as I love the paranormal and stuff, that it's still much more likely for aliens to be real than ghosts.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, if you don't believe in aliens, in my head, there's something wrong with you.
Well, I do believe in aliens because they are a mathematical certainty.
Yeah, exactly.
That is what I struggle with is the fact, can they get here? That's because of the sheer vastness of space. But of course they could, you know, the technology that we have no idea about. I think the most likely, and I don't think it's that likely explanation, is like wormholes, where, you know, we don't really understand how space and time can bend, and maybe someone or some civilization has. Liam, what do you think about the theory, though, that before a civilization develops a technology to transport themselves across space in the distances that they would need to, they will instead destroy themselves with that technology?
Or we just what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way that, or am I just making the mistake of grafting like the human experience onto something that is just not human?
I don't know, because I mean, this is what fascinates me, because apparently, like humans and Neanderthals and all that, back in the day, we were once living in caves and stuff, and like now we can do this. Like it seems mental that like even though that was like however many hundreds, thousands years ago, it still seems mental that we're here. And I'm pretty sure that like from the first time that like an aeroplane was flown, wasn't it only like 60 years later that the first rocket went to space?
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen.
And if you get a civilization that aren't monkeys predicated to war, if they survive longer than we are trying not to, who's to say they don't get to the point where they have those technologies and can use them?
Exactly.
So why are they so elusive and secretive?
Because we're a creature of war.
Yeah, but they could probably, if they can get here.
But then what's the point? What's the point of coming here, destroying us?
No. All I mean is, why don't they say hi? We come in peace.
You've seen
Because
the
they can probably
films.
see exactly. They can probably see us talking about this and how badly a lot of people would react and think, yeah, it's not worth it.
That's kind of one of my objections about this, is that the whole things that you see are still steeped in the sort of 1950s sci-fi flying saucer little green men tradition. And we don't seem to have been able to get beyond that.
But as I said to you the other day that you didn't know about, which I was explaining to him about the Tic Tac in the USS Nimitz with the Tic Tac off the coast of, and Mark hadn't heard of that. So briefly, while I was driving the car, I explained that.
Yeah.
That isn't. I mean, that was meeting them at vector points. That is confirmed by the US Navy. The pilots have come out. It's been spoken about in Congress. This isn't a 1950s B movie. This is recorded. You could go on YouTube after this. You can see the gun camera video of the craft moving, and it was meeting them at their vector points. I mean, that's not a movie. That's fact.
Yeah, I'm not going to claim I have an explanation. Sorry, Nick, go.
No, but I think the reason people can't get, like I said, the image of like little green men out the head and stuff is because that's all we have to go on. Like, because obviously nobody knows what an alien looks like. I mean, because an alien could be anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because an big argument I always used to have with Billy that it would not surprise me in the slightest if there was another planet out there exactly the same as Earth with humans on it exactly the same as us. I don't mean like a parallel universe where there's like another us three having the same conversation. I mean just another completely different Earth that is exactly the same with exactly the same type of humans on it. That would not surprise me in the slightest.
No.
But technically, they would be aliens.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And again, that's one of the things that's almost mathematically certain that is the case as well. Which
somewhere
I really like the idea of that, but we may have to accept that we'll never, contact them.
Exactly.
Well, but then the three UAPs that I've seen have been so different. All three sightings. I mean, one was probably, the second one was probably about 10 years ago. And where I live, Liam, it's a town, but it quickly gets to farm, fields and that type of thing. And my wife has horses, so she was driving home one evening, and she said to me, "Go upstairs to the very window that's beside me now." She went, "Go upstairs." It was an October evening. I can see a red light over the trees, but I can't work out what it is and where she was driving. So I came up to this window, and from behind me, from the fields there, from my perspective, it looked a bit bigger than a basketball. And it was just red, bright red. And it was coming from a good mile away, just not fast, over the trees. So I could see it there. And as it got closer, I came downstairs because she was coming. So we were both outside, and it passed overhead, I'd probably say 300-400 feet, no higher than that. So it was still a decent size. And as it's moved over the houses here, literally went sped up to a speed that you just completely silent while it was doing it, and went straight up like that, gone, completely gone, and just two of us standing on the drive. You think at that moment, oh my God, we have a religious experience, and it was sort of like, well, that's weird. And you go in the house, it's not,
Yeah.
But the more you think about it, it's that sort of thing. They talk about, what is it? We don't know what it is. That's why it's a UAP. It was really, really strange. But two of them have happened on the very front of my drive. It's strange.
See, I'd be worried about that. I mean, that means you're being watched.
Well, the third one is the one that worried me the most. It was my son, my wife, and me were about to get in the car. Again, it was November. So at the time, and it was one of those walking down the drive, and something just made me look up, and it was a cloudy night. It was a typical drizzly, cloudy November evening. And my son's at the front, my wife's in the middle, I'm at the back. And I look up, and there's 3 points of light. Don't know how high because there's a cloud bank between them, but triangular. And I couldn't see the shape, but there was one point there, 2 point there, 3 point there, in the shape of a triangle. And from the crowd, I had the feeling it was big but you can't gauge the distance because of the cloud. But it was just there. And I tapped my wife on the back, and I went, "Look at that!" And she saw it. Didn't really want to freak my son out, so nodded. And we got in the car. I sort of kept an eye on it for a minute or so. But it felt hefty. Now, could I say it was a triangular craft? No, because I couldn't see the entire shape. But there were 3 distinct points of light in an exact triangular shape.
So the things that Richard are recounting, they sound like a common theme, like a strange shape in a strange position, moving in a strange way. I mean, that must be the 3, like the holy trinity,
Or not moving.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, moving or not moving in a way that you wouldn't expect. Now, how, in your experience, Liam, how many of those phenomena can be explained by either aircraft or stuff that, if you do know about this sort of thing, is really obvious, but to the layperson is aliens visiting?
Yeah. Well, the first one is a strange one, but like I say, I mean, I suppose again, like you said, because we talk about like weather balloons and stuff, and obviously yes, they have to move and all that. But the second 2 are the ones that really intrigued me, because I've heard a lot of people have very similar experiences with like balls of light moving and then just going off at like fucking speed of sound.
Never seen anything move that quick.
Yeah, exactly. I've spoke to a few people who've experienced stuff like that, and weirdly, there's a lot of similarities with like triangular shapes as well. I've famously the Rendlesham Forest incident. That was obviously the triangle, and that's very.
And that was the military also, Mark.
Yeah, the Rendlesham is probably the sort of the UK's Roswell.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, that is something I've heard of. But I've always been very sniffy about it while not really doing any research into what. So I claim that I know what these people saw, but I don't really.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I mean, the Rendlesham one's a very interesting one because it's the problem with that is obviously it's a forest, so your visibility is very limited anyway. But then people have the argument, obviously, because there was the scorch marks on the ground, obviously that were in a triangle, and then the radiation levels there were like minimally higher. Like let's just say average is like 0.03. In that little triangle, it was like 0.4.
Yeah.
People made a big deal about that, which is weird because it was literally just in that triangle where it was just a little bit higher, but it's not like astronomical amounts. So,
and then the fact you had the US military there, and you had the Norfolk police on site.
Yeah,
the Norfolk police. Well, we know
all three of
US military, or they're involved. Something dodgy's going on. Norfolk police. That reduces the probability something was going down, doesn't it?
Well, I've got my own little
really
sighting that I had, which I still question myself on because I've never had anybody tell me something similar. But in my head, it happened. So I was driving to work one morning on breakfast shift. I was like, when place I used to work at the time, it was like in the middle of bloody countryside, so I had to go through the sticks and everything. And where I used to work, at one point you go down a big slope and then back up the other side of it. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. It was just like July, August time. It was summer, so it was full daylight at that time, and not a cloud in the sky. But then got to the bit where you go down this slope, and I just saw a big bright light in the sky, and it was my way of explaining it. I still don't know if this makes sense, but when you can see the moon during the day,
yeah,
it's like that size. That's how it looked, 10 times brighter. But the sun was behind me, so I know it wasn't the sun. No, because that's the first thing people always said to me. But I was like, no, because the sun was behind me. I know that for a fact. Because hitting the freaking wing mirror.
And was it moving?
No, it wasn't moving. But the weird bit is that then, so like I say, go down the slope. Then I was coming back up the other side. It sort of like closed like a camera lens and then just disappeared.
So it didn't shoot off anyway. It almost disappeared into itself.
Yeah. Just like closed like a camera lens would. It's really weird.
So I do live in the countryside. and I haven't seen anything. Is that because I'm just like particularly unobservant, do you think?
But that's the problem with it being in the sky as well, though, because it's like if you just because you're in the countryside when you see it, it could be. I mean, depending on how big it is, it could be hundreds of miles away.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking more that I have less light pollution, probably be able to see more stuff, and often do a bit of stargazing as well, but nothing out of the ordinary has come into view thus far. Yeah, but that, I mean, as I say, I think it's unlikely in terms of like the probability of something existing is high, and therefore the probability of something getting here is less, but not zero. That is how I think about it.
No, I mean, I'm probably more on that side of things as well, to be honest, because, like I say, there's definitely stuff out there, but I'm still unsure whether anything can get here or not.
Yeah.
I'd love it if they could, but
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% sure until I actually see something, then, like, right in front of me, like an alien, even if it is a little green person with big eyes and a big head. Like, until then you have to question everything.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. I should be a little bit more open to these things, especially I think the spirit world stuff is very difficult to, apart from the fact that these things happen at the time that they happen. Beyond that, I've had a hard time with it. But aliens, yeah, sure.
So you had a Polish ghost nurse story.
Yeah, more Poland stuff. So this happened on the night that my daughter was born. It was quite a traumatic and medically interventionist birth. Let's put it like that. The photos of my dear, darling, beautiful daughter, the floor behind betray what actually went on. Most proud fathers get to cut the umbilical cord. This one, having been wrapped round her neck, splattered and horror film style, shot a big hose of stuff all over the place. So that gives you an idea of the stress that was going on. And we moved from the delivery room to a normal private room. But you know, if you're thinking some sort of luxury thing, I had like literally the thinnest, I think it was meant to be a blow-up mattress with no air in it, and one of those hideous NHS chairs with the straightest back you've ever seen. That was
you cannot sleep in. Yeah.
No.
At least you got to stay there. I had to go home when my son was born. I got told to leave.
Oh, I'm sorry to. I'm sorry to hear that. I think that might have been a result, but that means I would have missed what happened next, which was into the room. And I don't have a great memory of her actually walking, but she was definitely there in like a fully formed person. But she was a nurse. She introduced herself as a nurse. She was Polish as well. And it soon became apparent that she wasn't that great at English. But my wife, who was of Polish extraction, her first language is Polish. And it soon negotiated that the nurse would speak in Polish and my wife would respond in English. Nothing too unusual about that. But the nurse was dressed like she was from the 1920s. Like she had these little white patent plimsoll things on rather than the Crocs that are the favourite of NHS staff. She had like sort of really thick white tights, sort of stockings maybe as well. A white dress with a pinafore on it, all white again. Her hair was all white. She was probably about 50 or 60 maybe. I'm guessing. And like the stereotypical little during the war nurse.
A bit like called a midwife.
Called a midwife with like a little hat and like a red cross on the front of it as well. And as soon as she appeared in the room, everything sort of, all the stress and everything completely went away. Just her presence made everything calm. And she took the baby and started singing it a Polish lullaby. And my wife said, "Oh, I think my nan or my great nan might have. I've heard this before, this lullaby," but she couldn't place it at all. And it really softened everything. And she said in it, she was like, "I love babies." And she gave it back and just left. And we thought, the whole like joy that had been missing for the last 12 hours suddenly became peace. We never saw that woman again. Not the next person to come in. She had like the purple smock, the Crocs, you know.
The NHS nurses outfit, yeah.
Yeah, like normal midwife or postnatal care, whatever it was. We never saw her again. The people who we spoke to didn't know who she was? Where's the Polish woman in the outfit? Who?
I mean, you would notice, surely, if she was,
It was
in
definitely.
you know how hard it is to get into into like the birthing suite, and everyone knows everyone, and to be dressed like that,
exactly.
you're going to stand out.
Yeah. No one had heard of her. No one. They were looking at us like we were mad. Where's the funny Polish woman in the outfit? Don't know
Getting
what you
dragged
mean.
off to a different section of the hospital.
Yeah, get back to the mental. But so, what other explanation could there be than it is the Polish ghost nurse? And that is the story that I tell.
Lunatic
Now,
who climbed in a window, maybe. I mean,
I mean, now I do have a completely rational explanation for that, but wouldn't that ruin the romance of that story?
definitely.
So should I give that, or should I just keep it to myself forever?
No. You can give it, but I will say first what I like there is again we're obviously talking about coincidence. Obviously, like I said, there's the Polish connection. I mean, like I say, that is usually what happens. Like I remember, obviously there was complications when my son was born, and when all like the medical team and everything come in, it was like the Avengers turned up, and like I chilled out straight away. It was weird. Like I say, for the room just to like go like that straight away as soon as she walked in for you, and the fact that she's singing a lullaby that your wife knows but can't think why she knows. To me, there's too much there for that to be coincidences.
Yeah. That's how I see it. That's how I see it as well. Mark will try
Definitely.
and rationalise these things.
Well, I have rationalised it, but I don't know whether I should express that because it's a great story, isn't it? And sometimes great stories are enough to it's what binds us together. So if anyone believes in the supernatural, I will tell that story, and I will never give them the rational explanation. If someone is highly skeptical and is looking at me like you are, then I will. But they love the romance of the story, and so maybe I should just keep it there. Do you want the rational explanation or not?
I do because I can't think of one. So I'd love to know what you've got.
So this is what I think. I think this was an agency nurse who was literally her first shift in a British hospital, and she had her Polish nurse's outfit, and I suspect that is what they wear, or at least what they wore at the time in Poland. And as things progress, she could speak English, but no, suddenly it's real and you're in a real life situation, and lo and behold, someone can speak Polish. So why don't you take the easy option? You know, how many Polish lullabies are there? I mean, my wife probably did hear it. And so she disappeared because, that was the shift came to an end, and people didn't know who she was because she wasn't part of their team.
Can I counter that?
Yeah, of course. That's just
so
a guess.
in your work environment, everyone, where you work, everyone's in shirt, trousers. Someone came in a clown outfit, and they were in that environment. No, if someone, you would notice them, even if you were doing your shift. The fact that no one you spoke to had any clue who that was makes it strange, because they don't just work. They don't work on their own. They work as team.
Yeah, but you could see maybe it was changeover time, and
but she would have done a shift.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, she did just appear for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but so that means she's either just started or just finished. Yeah. And well, there's the best question then. So what time did this happen? Can you remember the time it happened?
Yeah, it was about midnight. So my daughter was born at 10:20 at night, and then by the time everything had calmed down and we'd moved,
well, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that the shifts they do are 8 till 8.
Yeah. Well, it's a good. Yeah, you do make a good point, because when we arrived at the hospital around 5:30, 6. And that was shift change time, because we had a bit of an issue because someone was coming off and someone was coming on. And at that time, sort of seriousness of the situation hadn't presented itself. So everything was, apart from my wife was in an absolute state. Apart from that, everything was normal thus far.
So you're telling me you were in the only NHS hospital in the UK that do 5-hour shifts?
Yeah, I mean, there are some significant holes in my. But I just so it's either someone starting their first ever shift in a British hospital, or it's a ghost.
There's your options.
No, but again, I can see where you're coming from like I say, with the idea, but I think the time of it and, like you said, the fact that if she was wearing the standard uniform, I'd say, yeah, fair enough. Could very easily be that. But like Richard said, I just think, because like I said, I work in a kitchen, obviously we wear whites. Occasionally people will turn up and they'll have a black jacket, and you like it looks weird. Or someone will have a different coloured pair of trousers on, looks weird. You notice it straight away.
Yeah.
And also, let's not forget, I've got no idea what Polish nurses wear.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'm just guessing that, like, there's some.
Yeah, I'm not Googling Polish nurse because I had to think what will come up.
Might put that on incognito before you do that.
Yeah, it's a very risky term, that
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, that's definitely that's my favourite one, because to me there's too many things there that could be coincidence, but then there's too many things that make sense, if that makes sense.
And we've been friends since kids, Liam.
Yeah.
And I heard that for the first time when he spoke about it on the pod last week, and I've thought about it.
Yeah, I think about it a lot as well. In fact, at some point I will have a Polish ghost nurse tattoo. That is in the plan. Maybe the Halloween's coming up, so maybe I'll take advantage of the Halloween rush. But yeah, again, I quite like that story because it's got a degree of romance to it, and I feel a lot of these things. This is why I'm putting my skepticism and that thing back in leaving it with you in the shed. It's because people get a lot of comfort from this. So who wants to be actually, I think you'll find that the physical impacts of vibration on a wet
Fun
surface.
sponge.
Yeah, I mean, I say I regret it. It looks like I enjoy it massively when I do it. But I try and, as I've matured into midlife, I have tried to gauge my audience a bit better because, people, there's lots of religious, either organised or spiritual stuff. People get lots of comfort for that. So, to burst that bubble is a little bit mean-spirited, I think. So that is why I've deposited that skepticism in your shed, and maybe you can put it in a box and lock it away.
No, I like that. I like that. And like I said, I know exactly what you mean, and it's true. Like me at the minute, because like I say, a lot of people that I've spoke to over the years about how mostly mediums and stuff, because they're always adamant that kids, until they get to a certain age, can see things. And like now, like my son is 1 a week today. He's 1 next Wednesday. I forgot what day it was.
It's my birthday next Tuesday, so it's a good day.
Yeah, nice. But he always looks at pictures of my granddad on the wall. I mean, my granddad's been dead over 10 years now, but he always looks at them and smiles and puts his hand out. And I mean, that just could be because he likes the photo. But there's also a part of my head that's saying, oh, well, he's seen him before. That's why he's doing it.
You do get those stories of kids saying, like, fucking spooky things. Like when
I used to do it.
Really?
I used to sit in my bedroom and talk to myself all the time. And then, like I say, it was only the other week. Like this is what I was touching on at the start. I won't go too much into it because it was a bit of personal stuff. But I was speaking to a psychic, and she told me, I told her that I used to talk to people, and then all of a sudden she was like, oh, do you remember? And then told me a name, and I was just like, no. And she was like, oh, well, ask your mum about it. So I was like, well, why are you telling me to ask? How the hell do you know that? Because my mum's into mediumship and all that. So then I messaged my mum, and like, turns out there's like quite a few family members with that name as well. So,
yeah.
And like this woman was in America. Like it's the first time I'd ever spoke to her. I'm like, how the hell would she know that?
Well, your wife, Richard, I didn't realise this as well. She seems to have powers, doesn't she?
Yeah. She's always had it since. I mean, funny enough, we were just talking about it the other night because we were coming on here. She said ever since she was a child, she felt someone on her right shoulder. Someone was there, and it scared her to death. She hated it. She just felt the presence of someone on her right shoulder. And many, and she said, I think when she got to about 13, 14, one day never felt, and she went to see a psychic, and a psychic said that she used to have a guardian who used to sit on her right shoulder, and his name was Richard, funnily enough. But even said, So that was the start of it. But she's always, on the voice notes, for instance, she had friends, and I met him on a few occasions, and I sat in on some sessions. Psychics was something with me. I'm open to it. Let me see what's going on. It wasn't an area that I was interested in, But let's see. It was fascinating. He was working with Amanda for a while. And wasn't charging money, you know. If in effect, he just asked for donations to charity for what he was doing. And when Amanda was there, and he said, "You do have something. Let's see if we can work on it." So he was giving us stuff to do and what have you. And then one evening, he asked her to see if she could read somebody, and it was an acquaintance, but not a friend. Someone she knew around the circles. But she obviously, as the conversation went, Amanda was aware that her sister died a few years before in a car accident, so she was aware of that. But she was able to pick up how it happened and the car, which was a BMW. And she said it was like her sister was there. She was struggling because she didn't want to say it to her. And she said it was her sister was there going to me. She didn't realise this at the time. Her sister was a very forthright, strong person. And she was shouting at my wife, tell her, tell her, tell her, tell her. And then she came out with it. And she said that the wave of emotion that she felt, they hugged. They didn't know each other. They hugged and sobbed in each other's arms in the middle of the... Now, to pick that out from someone you don't really know in a situation that you're not aware of was quite an interesting shift, and the emotion she felt throughout it all was really powerful.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like they're the ones that really make me think, and I think maybe there is something in it, because psychics and mediums, that was always the hardest one for me to get my head around, because it always seemed to be that you have to pay him for him to tell you anything, and it's just like to me like it's like at the own, like, and you can speak to your your dead relatives, but you got to give me a £5 if you want to use it. I need credit.
And
that's
he
why
I've
never sort of trusted them.
Yeah, and he wasn't in it for that. He literally he didn't take money. We've been to his house. He'd been here, and he was a lovely guy. Unfortunately, he moved away. But yeah, it was those sort of moments. I mean, she's always been sensitive. For instance, we've got a place near us, Leeds Castle, which was one of Henry VIII's castles. And there's one of the voice, and I'll tell you about that afterwards. But there's a stairwell, there's a spiral staircase, and we were going up it because you can visit it. They do stuff there. She couldn't go upstairs. She could not. She can't see them, but it's like the presences are there. Trying to not she doesn't walk into every room, but places she walks into, and she feels their presence there, and it's like they're here. She I can't go up there. She was saying she was a company she was working for. They had an event at a big stately home, and wanted to go to the toilet, and they showed her where it was, through here, down this corridor, up the stairs. As soon as she got to the bottom of the stairs, she said there was somebody. Couldn't see them. There was somebody at the top of the stairs, and I just couldn't do it. So she went, they were there. I could feel them there. Couldn't physically see them, but there was somebody there that wanted me to come up. So I did the only brave thing and turned round and went back to the table and held it. That was pretty much. But she's quite sensitive to that.
It just because that's one thing that I like. Even now, sometimes I try to come up with like explanations and stuff, but it's like how, like, what other way could your wife know, like, say that the car was a BMW and stuff like that, and it's just
my wife's not a car person. I can't think of.
Yeah, exactly.
She doesn't. She's not that way inclined, but she just saw it, and she said it was her sister.
Yeah, it's just crazy because they're the ones where I can't think of a reason or an explanation of how they can do what they can do, because like there's nothing more annoying than like when you see the ones on the telly and they go into a room and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting the letter S."
Yeah.
It's 100 people in here. You twat. Course you.
I'm going to see Clinton Baptiste shortly, so that's the world famous psychic from Phoenix Nights. So, but yeah, no, I get it, and I just thought let me just see, but just to watch somebody that's no financial gain, he's doing it for that was really eye opening.
Yeah, it's definitely a. Like I say, it's just really intriguing to me. Like I say, psychic stuff, like especially now from my own experience, now that I almost have to believe it a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. I think once you open yourself up to it and you see what's out there. But what are your thoughts on cryptids?
I don't even know what cryptids are.
Say,
well, like say Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster and stuff. Right, but okay. I don't know because I've spoken to a lot of people about cryptids and stuff, And some of the things people have told me, I'm just like, at the time I'm respectful and I listen and like I take in what they're telling me, and then afterwards sometimes I finish and like I close the laptop. I'm like, right, lunatic.
Yeah.
Like, I've had a bloke on before, like a lot of the stuff, majority of the stuff he was telling me, I was like, right, yeah, interesting, because he was talking about Bigfoots, and I was like on the edge of my seat listening, because he's like a researcher and stuff, and he's claims he's had 4 or 5 times when he's seen them, like literally like face to face. But then he went on to tell me how he thinks that they use portals, and that's how like people don't see them very much. And I'm just like, all right, you've ruined it now.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
that's my limit with
now
it.
you've filled it.
Yeah. Only because a friend of how it all started around it, and sort of my journey into the British side of things was a friend of ours lives on. It's called the Isle of Grain, and it's a remote farmhouse. And again, there's been hauntings there which have been seen by many people, but that's another thing. And she said that we keep seeing this. We've seen over the years, not just her, this strange thing on the farm. And I was like, right, okay. And like there's outbuildings, and for instance, I mean, it's open farmland until you get to the Medway, which is ultimately the mouth of the Thames. So it's a very wide, large river. So there's estuaries and everything, and woodland and everything like that. And she said one night Kim is not this kind of person. She's not woo. She said, but she runs a cleaning business of like all the industrial halls, blankets, everything like that. She was coming between the buildings, and between the buildings, she had this was going back, so it was like one of the escort vans, one of those. And there was a figure, waist above the roof, that she could see the silhouette of. It was a nighttime above the car. She just obviously glanced and carried on walking, but wasn't sure what it was. And then her brother moved into a caravan on the property with his family. There's dikes and everything like that to bring the water around. And they said one night they were coming back in, and again the same sort of thing. From waist up, they could see a silhouette in the distance of an outline of almost like a humanoid shape. And there were occurrences of the caravan they were in being shook while the whole family were in there. And so I thought, let me just have a look at this. And I started looking online. And do you know Deborah Hatswell? She's a British. She had a sighting back in the 70s in the UK, and she documents sightings across the UK. She's got her own map. If you go on Facebook, I've spoken to her, and she used to have her own podcast, which is just finished. I mean, her sighting traumatized her to the point where she wouldn't leave the house for months. Yeah, she's I think she only retired a couple of months ago, and I used to speak to her, and there were so many similar sightings in that region. It's only 5-6 miles from here, but there's numerous sightings over 50, 60 years in the region of that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely intriguing. That, because like I don't believe in like the Loch Ness monster and stuff. I just think that's just a great little tourist thing. That's just to get people to go there. But like because like I've always said, because like the like you say, like your big, like again, well, you use Bigfoot as the best example really, because that's probably the most famous one. But obviously, like back like say hundreds of years ago, obviously like an animal went extinct. It was like an orangutan, but it was like 8 foot tall. It was like Gigantopithecus or something.
Gigantopithecus, yeah.
That's the one, yeah. I can never say that word. Like, to me, that's what a Bigfoot is. So, like, you hear so many times about, we found this animal that we thought was extinct. And so, is it like, is it something like that? But then, like to me, like something like a platypus, that's a fucking cryptid to me.
Yeah. See, the thing is, in America, I mean, I've that's my thing. So, I mean, I've watched breakdowns and studies of the Patterson Gimlin film and how that kind of thing could be made. And I can understand a small population in a country as vast as America, because I think they find on average, I think it's between 8 and 10 waterfalls per year. They don't move.
Exactly.
But I struggle with it in this country, but then who's to say?
Yes, that's what's strange, because I don't know how I've never heard of something like you say, something like that before. I'm gonna have to look more into that, because
I'll send you a link on her stuff, and
definitely.
Yeah, I'll send you a link on it and have a look.
Because to me, the only real one, like I say, over here in the UK for me was, like you said, the Loch Ness monster and stuff. That's the only real sort of thing that I'd heard of over here.
At Cannock Chase, there's supposed to be a lot of sightings, apparently. If you listen to the podcast that she does and the maps, and they have eyewitnesses, and it's who's to say? Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't.
Exactly. No, definitely not. And Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I don't know if I don't. It's one of them things. I don't know if I'd want the answer to that or not.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy going. I wouldn't be so walking the dogs in these places anymore. I know that much.
But then again, I suppose it's the same with paranormal and the aliens and stuff as well. It's like, if we knew, like, would we be doing this?
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have it. There wouldn't.
Where's the mystery then?
Yeah, exactly. There'd be no need to have this debate or anything, or actually talk about it, because it's just like, well, yeah, obviously we know they're there, and right, next episode,
Yeah,
there'd be nothing to talk about.
yeah.
There'd be no intrigue there.
And it's interesting to talk about it. I like it. Mark's been quiet.
Same.
That's interesting.
Well, as I say, I've put my skepticism in the spooky shed, and so it appears to have rendered me mute for which, people are probably pleased about.
Right, well, I'm happy to leave it there, lads. If you two are, if
yeah,
else.
it's been great.
Enjoyed that.
Yeah, same. That was that. I really enjoyed that, to be fair. Before we finish, you just want to let our listeners know again where they can find you, what your podcast is?
Yeah, so our podcast is Mum, Dad's Got Another Tattoo, the Midlife Crisis podcast. We release it every Friday, have a selection of guests and sort of updates of life, of how we're finding the terrain of midlife. And as we say, we want to build a community where we can find our way through this part of life as healthily, mentally and physically as possible, and have a bit of a laugh doing it at the same time.
Cool. I like it. And whilst I'm getting closer, I'm not quite at midlife yet, but
it's more of
when I get there, I'll start listening.
It's a state of mind, not an age. That's what I find. I've known some people been middle-aged since they were about 6.
I mean, if we're talking physically, then I'm past middle-aged. Mentally, I'm still about 7.
All right, you got a while yet before we welcome you into the flock. But when you find your way there, the arms are open wide.
Good to
really
know.
appreciate that, Liam. Really enjoyed that.
No problem. Like I say, really enjoyed it. Right then, guys, we shall leave it there for today. So, as always, go and follow our Instagram page at the Spooky Shed Podcast. The link in the bio there for all our other social media pages that we do not use. But Patreon page is there, merch store, YouTube channel, all that sort of stuff. And we shall speak to you next time.